Warning! The root's on fire! You're about to experience the most high-octane, pedal-to-the-metal controversial show of your life. Please buckle up and hold on tightly. This station is not responsible for injuries. This is Wayne Allen Root, raw and unfiltered, with America's favorite conservative rock star. Direct from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas. What time is it? It's time for war! Here's your host, 100% raw truth, 100% American made, the warrior, Wayne Allen Root.
All right. Wayne Allen Root, raw and unfiltered, and stapling like a madman. I love stapling. I staple all my columns together, all my articles, because that's what I do to prepare for my show. I staple columns, and I put them in front of me, and then I've got the news stories of the day to react to respond to talk to you about. So I'm like the mad stapler. You've heard of the mad bomber. I'm the mad stapler. Do you know that my guest on my radio show last hour was Jake Lang? Jake Lang is a January 6th political prisoner, and he called in. We don't like doing it on the Lindell TV show because to have someone call in and you can't see their face is hard to do. It's not a great interview when that happens. So we just wanted him to call in on the national radio show. But Jake called in. First of all, what makes him unique is from his prison cell, he founded a streaming TV network called Blessed News. And this show, which airs on USA Audio Network on the radio, and then on TV, it's on Lindell TV at frankspeech.com. See? Yesterday I went through my senior moment. I couldn't remember frankspeech.com. First time ever. I've said it 10,000 times. First time ever. I couldn't pull it out of my brain. frankspeech.com. And then you click on Lindell TV 2. I drew a total blank. But I got it again today. But this show also airs on Blessed News. Lindell was nice enough, Lindell TV and Mike Lindell were nice enough to allow Blessed News to grab this show as well. Brighteon TV gets this show as well at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. But Blessed takes it live every single day. Jake Lang founded Blessed TV Network, which is at blessed.news. Blessed.news. He founded it from his prison cell. So Jake called into my show, and he's back on COVID lockdown. He's in solitary confinement 23 hours a day. No family visits, no clergy visits, no lawyer visits. Inhumane. He's been detained for almost 1,000 days without a trial, and he rarely gets to see family or lawyers or clergy. It's no religious services. It's incredible. This is America. And he had a star witness, and his trial got canceled for the third time. It has not been rescheduled. And his star witness in his trial is Philip Anderson. Jake saved his life at the Capitol. The guy was at the bottom of a pile, if I remember the story correctly. He was being squished to death, and I think he was about to die. He was basically having a heart attack, and he had no pulse, and Jake saved him, saved his life. And so he was going to testify that Jake saved his life. Guess what happened? They've arrested him. Philip Anderson, the star witness, has been arrested, so he can't testify for Jake. All of this is a giant scheme to make him break and make him take a plea deal. It's witness tampering and it's intimidation. And all I could say is the entire Washington is being run by criminal communist scumbags. These are scum of the earth, like the Nazi thugs and the Soviet thugs of the Soviet Union and the East German Stasi of East Germany with that big wall. You know, in America, I love a big wall. Trump loves a big wall. Do you know why? We want to keep bad people out. In communist countries, they build a big wall to keep the good people in. Do you understand the difference? You need a wall to keep people from running, from escaping from a communist country. And what they're doing to Jake Lang is like what they did to Nelson Mandela My God, this is a Nelson Mandela moment. Do you understand? That you say, oh, you can't compare a guy who went to a protest with Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela spent 30 years hard labor in prison, in isolation. And at the end of 30 years, he became the president of South Africa. But during those 30 years, they beat him, and the mental cruelty and the torture and the isolation. 30 years looking out a window, seeing a little island. You couldn't even see the country of South Africa. He was on Robben's Island. I think he only saw water. He couldn't even see the country he was one day going to lead. And yet, you say he's no Nelson Mandela, Jake Lang? Not true. Nelson Mandela, when he was in prison, I'm sure they thought of him as just some thug, some punk. I'm sure they used the N-word. He's some N. He's some terrible black guy, right? He became the president of the nation, and he made sure there was no revenge. He said, now that I'm president, I want to speak to the black people. Don't kill the white people. Don't do it. Two wrongs don't make a right. He was a great, great man. I read his life story. Great man. He kept his faith and he kept his strength. 30 years in prison looking out a little window, and then became the president and the ruler of his country. And he refused to let the blacks get retribution and kill all the whites. Great job, Nelson Mandela. But so he is Nelson Mandela. Jake Lang is like Nelson Mandela. He is like Malcolm X. He's being persecuted by his country. He is like Muhammad Ali, who was sent to prison for refusing to fight in the Vietnam War for a country that treated him and his people like crap because they were black. He said, why should I go fight for you? You treat me like crap. I get it. I get it. I totally understand. Because now, the situation's reversed. Who's being treated like crap now? White people and white Republicans and white straight males. I get your pain now. But two wrongs don't make a right. Persecuting white Republican straight males does not make what was done to blacks all those years all good now. Jake Lang is being treated like a political prisoner. And the guy just started a TV network, a streamed online TV network from his prison cell, in solitary, without clergy, without family, without lawyers, without a trial. So maybe he really is Nelson Mandela. Maybe he is President of the United States, Jake Lang, 30 years from now, after they eventually, 30 years from now, let him out of prison for doing nothing. For doing nothing. By the way, did Nelson Mandela do anything? I don't know. I wasn't there. I have no idea. But whatever he did to get him 30 years in prison, hard labor, it was probably more than what Jake Lang did. Jake Lang did nothing. He went to a protest and never came home. You know what this is about? This is all about the whole January 6th situation and the arrest of Trump and the indictments of Trump. It's about putting the fear of God into all of you. Because I just saw this story as we started the show, as we went to press here. The hundreds of Pennsylvania high school students have walked out of their school after the school board said transgender students must be allowed to use whatever bathroom they choose. And the students in Perkiomen Valley District protested the decision. The school board was accused of compromising students' rights, and hundreds of students walked out in protest over this new rule. And I'm telling you, the whole country has got to be shut down by us. I'm sick of this crap. The arrests of Trump, the indictments of Trump, all of his friends indicted because they all believe the election was stolen. Rudy Giuliani indicted, the greatest crime fighter, maybe the greatest crime-fighting prosecutor in the history of America, who screwed the mafia, who told the mafia to go to hell, who figured out RICO and took everything away from them. They're using RICO against him because he wanted to overturn a stolen election. It's absurd, except it's a communist takeover of the United States. Anyone could see that. These people are communist, jackbooted thugs. And they're out to put January 6ers away and put Trump away and put Giuliani away and put Trump's lawyers away. You hire a lawyer to tell you, how could we fight this? Give me an idea. Give me ideas. And when they give you an idea, you arrest them because they had no right to have an idea. The lawyers didn't say overturn the country. The lawyers didn't say steal the election. The lawyers said, if you believe the election was stolen, let me tell you what you could do to remedy the situation. How can you arrest a lawyer for that if you expect America to go on? How could any lawyer represent any client ever again if that's what you do to lawyers? Hey, I'm Wayne Root, and I just murdered somebody. Can you get me off on murder? And the lawyer says, here's the way I'm going to do it. And the lawyer gets arrested for doing it. That's never happened in the history of America. Ever. So I think they're so scared of us protesting. And by the way, that's how they took South Africa's government down. That's how they stopped East Germany and the wall. So they ripped the wall down. That's how they stopped the Soviet Union. Massive protests by the people. You know, if we have to go on a hunger strike, if we have to lay down in front of highways, we need to shut the damn country down before they steal another election in 2024. And then they're going to take this country forever and take us down forever and send FBI at 5 in the morning to arrest us all over nothing. We need to, protests are the key, and that's why they're scared to death of protests, of millions of people surrounding Washington. We need all the trucks, like the truckers in Canada. We need to shut down the country. They're scared to death of that. MyPillow is the sponsor of this show. 20th anniversary of MyPillow, over 80 million pillows sold, and they're giving you the best price ever in history on queen size MyPillows and king size MyPillows. Up to 80% off all their products. Use the promo code ROOT, R-O-O-T, for Wayne Root at mypillow.com. All right, Wayne Allen Root, the Root's on fire. Here's another great story. Man ticketed 7 times for flying vulgar anti-Biden flag on his car. So this guy, his name is, let's see if I can find the guy's name, Brunet, Ross Brunet, or maybe it's pronounced Brunette. I'm guessing it's Brunet because it's in Louisiana, right? Nobody's ever Brunet. It's Brunet. It's like a French pronunciation. He's a construction worker, and he routinely drove around this vacation island called Grand Isle, Louisiana, with flags on his pickup saying, F you, Joe Biden. I don't have to spell the whole word out, do I? You get it. F Joe Biden. And he got pulled over and given tickets 7 times for using vulgar language. They have a law in this actual town that said you can't have any sort of display that's obscene. So they ticketed him for having an obscene display, for saying F Joe Biden, F you for voting for him. And he flew 3 flags from his work truck. And he was given a total of 7 citations. And guess what just happened? He filed a lawsuit against the city of Brunei, on behalf of Brunei against the city. And the attorneys argued he was cited out of an attempt by the community to stifle his free speech. And now the city has agreed to give him $40,000 and also agreed to rescind the ordinance. Not only can he now fly his flags, but he's $40,000 richer, and the ordinance is gone. And this is what we need. You know, Martin Luther King, civil disobedience, massive protests, massive strikes, bringing this country to a standstill, and most importantly, fly flags that say F Joe Biden and his communist scum comrades. F the communist takeover of the United States. F the people that voted for Joe Biden. Just like this guy's flags. It's free speech, and it's our right to say it. Screw you. Let them know the contempt we've got for you. We hate you. We despise you. We're sick of your bullshit. Spit. I almost said it. Almost. You almost caught me, but I didn't. You know, it's so funny because I'm a Jew to Christ my Savior, but I'm from the streets of New York. And certain words are needed against certain bad people, certain evil people. You just got to use those words. And you got to be vicious. and fight vicious with vicious and fire with fire. Okay? Trust me. Turn the other cheek and go to church is not going to save America. Go to church and then go out and fight for America. And be strong. Not a wimp. Not a fruity fruit tooty toot. Ain't going to work. It's not going to work if you're soft. We got to fight. All right. Energized Health is a sponsor of this segment of the show. Let me mention them. Then I got a few more things I want to say real quick. Energized Health saved my life because I lost 25 pounds of fat in 88 days, and I didn't even know I was fat. Didn't know I had any fat. I didn't lose any weight, but it was fat in my body that just melted away, and it kind of changed the way I looked. And then I gained 10 pounds of muscle, and it's all because of Energized Health. Thank you, Energized Health. Great program. And as a bonus, because that fat melted away, it changed my aging process. I look better now and younger now than 12 years ago at the age of 50. Now I'm 62. So, it's amazing. And I landed 2 major shows every day on Lindell TV and on weekends on Real America's Voice TV. I landed those shows at the age of 61 because I got in this program at the age of 59 with Energized Health, and they changed my life. Here's your chance to be like Wayne. Energized Health's offering my fans 40% off. Go to energizedhealth.com or call 888-444-8895. Toll free 888-444-8895. Energizedhealth.com. Tell them Wayne Allyn Root sent you, and you get 40% off. Congressman Matt Gaetz, who I think is fabulous, calls for repatriation of U.S. taxpayer dollars sent to Ukraine, as in get the money back, claw the money back. And then Matt Gaetz drafts a subpoena for Hunter Biden's records and deposition and calls on Kevin McCarthy, calls his bluff, and says, sign it. Millions of Americans are wondering if you're serious. Sign it, Kevin McCarthy. Matt Gaetz does it right. You know what we need to do? Put part 2 in there. Repatriate the money from Ukraine and use it to defend our border from a massive invasion. Why are we giving money to Ukraine? Because theoretically, they're being invaded by Russia, and Russia's brutal, and Russia's killing people. Our border is being invaded by millions of barbarians who are destroying our country, building up massive debt that will wreck our economy for years to come and cause higher taxes. And they're bringing in drugs and prostitution and sex trafficking. Use the money for our border. Wayne Allyn Root, the Root's on fire, comes to you from the house that Root built. Here in Las Vegas, Nevada, you can only find a war like this in the good old US of A. And I must mention the sponsor of this segment of the show, because they signed the front of the check so you can watch for free. SpikeWarrior.com. I got great news and I got bad news. The bad news is we're all vaccinated now. 70% or more of Americans took the COVID vaccine. Your friends, your coworkers, maybe even your spouse, your parents, your children. And we all know from doctors and scientific literature that there's a good chance they're shedding spike proteins, which means they're shedding onto you, which means whether you took the jab or not, we've all been contaminated, or at least it's possible we've all been contaminated. And now they're putting mRNA, or trying to, in our food, in our meat, in our vegetables, in our chicken, in our fish. Like it or not, we may all be vaxxed, even if you never got the vax. The great news is there is a solution. Patent pending Nocovidium from SpikeWarrior.com. Best product I've ever seen to help rid your body of spike proteins. This patent pending Nocovidium product helps your body break down spike proteins and other toxins and remove them forever, naturally. It turns your body into a spike protein eating machine like Pac-Man. Here's a special offer for my fans only. Just say WAR for Wayne Allyn Root, and you get 2 bottles of patent pending Nocovidium for the price of 1. 2 for the price of 1. 1 bottle for you and 1 for someone you love, or 2 bottles for you. Go right now to SpikeWarrior.com. That's SpikeWarrior.com, and use the promo code WAR. And then I've got to use this disclaimer always. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. What a nation. We've got to say that because something might actually work. And the things that don't work, they want to give you, and you don't have to say a thing. Amazing. Our guest, perfect timing, Dr. Pierre Kory, one of the great heroes of medicine in America today. President and Chief Medical Officer of Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, author of The War on Ivermectin, the medicine that saved millions and could have ended the pandemic. Go get a copy of his book, The War on Ivermectin, and you can find him at drpierrecorey.com. Dr. Corey, welcome for the first time to the Wayne Allyn Root Show. How are you?
Wayne, my pleasure. Good to be here.
Great to have you on. You know, there's never been any host in America who got there first before me or spoke more boldly about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and told people not to take the vaccines and don't wear the masks and don't lock down. None of it works. All of them are dangerous and deadly. You're a hero. I'm a hero. We both put our you know what, our cojones on the line to tell people the truth about all this. And that's why I appreciate great doctors like you, because I put it all on the line, man, to tell people that this is a scam and that this is not going to kill you if you get ivermectin, vitamin C, vitamin D3, and zinc and quercetin into your body. And you did the same kind of thing. So thank you for everything you did, Dr. Corey.
Yeah, and I'm sure your listeners thank you. I mean, you had it right. You had it right early, and I'm sure that had major impact. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'm no doctor, but my parents died of cancer 28 days apart when I was a young man, and I vowed to study nutrition and vitamins, and I've been taking 100 vitamins a day for about 40 years. I'm 62 years old now, and I look the best of my life, and I've been sick twice in 30 years, because the minute I feel a cold coming on, you know, I take 10 grams of vitamin C, and the cold goes away within an hour. Why doesn't everybody know about this, doctor? It works. It absolutely works.
Yeah, I mean, well, the reason why they don't know about it, right, is kind of the core of my book, right, which I kind of structured the book to use ivermectin as an example of something that industry attacks with disinformation campaigns. And, you know, I define disinformation as per the article written in 2017. It's on the website, the Union for Concerned Scientists. And they outline the tactics that industries deploy when science emerges that's inconvenient to their interest. And never has more inconvenient science emerged than the science around ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. So, like, for instance, I wrote the book, The War on Ivermectin, but one of my colleagues could have easily written the book, The War on Hydroxychloroquine. It was the same war, same tactics.
Right.
But, you know, it was done. Yeah, go ahead.
I take ivermectin every week as a preventative. I assume that's something you agree with. I take it every week, once a week, as a preventative. Is that a positive to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That will reduce your risk of getting COVID. You know, once a week was effective in that first variant, like the first year and a half. Then we started seeing breakthroughs. I mean, we don't really know what the real dose is because all the trials were done in the first year, and with each subsequent variant, there's a little bit higher viral load. So it's hard to tell what the dose is. I say for people who really want to be careful, they can take it twice a week. Or some others who work from home or just travel, I say take it every day while you're traveling during a high exposure period. So there's a few ways to do it, but yeah, it's definitely effective.
I love to use you as a sounding board. So as an example, here's another thing I did. So remember I said I've been sick twice in 30 years. I got COVID. I got it in late 2021. I didn't get it in any of 2020 and throughout most of 2021. But in November of 21, I got COVID, and I did two things. I took massive doses of C and ivermectin and D and zinc, and then I asked a visiting nurse to come to my home and give me intravenous vitamin C, and COVID was gone in 48 hours. Are you a fan of intravenous vitamin C too? Because it really felt like it changed my life.
You may or may not know this, Wayne, but that is actually an area of my expertise. In fact, if you look at our nonprofit, right, the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, the five of us who originally came together, we're all intravenous vitamin C experts that where you're using it and doing research on it in severe sepsis. So for infections, a high dose of IV vitamin C will absolutely turn you around. Not everyone can get access to it, but I'm glad that you did, and that's what I would have done for sure.
You know why I got access to it? I'm not sure if you could do this in the rest of the country, but in Vegas, we have like 20 companies that send visiting nurses to your hotel room to give you vitamin C for hangovers. So they're all available to be hired anytime to come to your house in Vegas where I live and give you vitamin C. But it was supposed to be for hangovers. And I said, well, why wouldn't I use it if I get sick? And it was like, it gave me a burst of energy. I went from being tired with COVID to feeling like Superman the minute they took the needle out of my arm after 20 minutes of getting intravenous C. I felt like Superman. It was the greatest turnaround in the history of my life. Vitamin C intravenous is great.
I mean, intravenous vitamin C is a really powerful therapy. I mean, it will absolutely bring your concentrations of vitamin C to super physiologic levels. And there's a really strong dose response to IV vitamin C. And, I'll give you a little fact. So in severe sepsis or septic shock, in the better drug trials where it's treated really early, the efficacy or the potency of IV vitamin C in people who are in severe sepsis, severe overwhelming infections, it has what's called a number needed to treat of 2.5 to save a life. So that means for every 2.5 people you treat, you'll save one life. And that's about as potent a therapy that there is in medicine. In fact, the only thing that's similar is defibrillating someone out of a cardiac arrest. So literally, if you give someone who's really ill with an infection, you give them a high dose of IV vitamin C, I mean, it's almost like defibrillating someone in a cardiac arrest. That's how powerful that therapy is.
And yet, if I said that at a hospital, do you know what the doctor's reaction would be? Oh, my God, no, we'll never do that. Why are they like that, Dr. Corey?
Yeah, so you're bringing up a really good point, right? So I wrote this book on ivermectin because there was this massive disinformation campaign, and of the 5 tactics, right? So it's patterned after an article called the Disinformation Playbook, and they named the 5 tactics after American football plays. So it's like the fake, the fix, the blitz, the screen, the diversion, and the most powerful one is something called the fake, and that's when they conduct and publish trials which have predetermined results. So they can design and conduct a trial to show something doesn't work. They can design and manipulate a trial to show that it does work. And they've been doing this for decades. It's not new around ivermectin. But the way in which I discovered this article, it's an interesting story, is after my ivermectin testimony, and ivermectin became discussed widely and everyone would have different opinions and it was getting attacked. One day I got an email from a guy I didn't know. He was a professor and he just wrote, "Dear Dr. Corey, what they're doing to ivermectin, they've been doing to vitamin D for decades." And he was one of the most published researchers on vitamin D, and he'd seen 30 years of published literature of many, 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 many trials published showing that vitamin D doesn't work. It doesn't work for cancer. It doesn't work for protecting against infection. It doesn't work in autoimmune diseases. Those are all false. It absolutely does work. Right. It's absolutely critical. But the entire history of literature of published trials on vitamin D is completely polluted by these fraudulent trials done by pharma-conflicted investigators. And you can double that for cancer. You can also say that for ivermectin. And that was the big thing about ivermectin is there's a chapter in my book called The Big Six, and it was these 6 largest, quote unquote, high quality trials. The only ones done when the investigators were all reeking with financial conflicts of interest with the pharmaceutical industry. And they're all designed to show that it didn't work. And that they had a lot of trouble hiding the fact that it worked. They had to actually do some manipulations that you don't often see done in trials. That's how strong it was that even the experts had trouble conducting a trial to show that it didn't work, which is what they're really good at. And that's just one of the tactics. But the reason why I bring that up, Wayne, is that war.
Hey, Doc, can I ask you to save it?
Yeah.
Dr. Corey, save it because I want you for another segment, and we're going to an ad break. We got to go. They're telling me in my ear we're heading out to an ad break. So just save that for the next segment, and let's start with that. And we'll be right back. Wayne Allyn Root, rootforamerica.com is my website. We're on with Dr. Pierre Kory, President and Chief Medical Officer of the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance. He's the author of The War on Ivermectin, the medicine that saved millions. It could have ended the pandemic. His website is drpierrekory.com. We'll be right back. I have so much to ask him about the COVID vaccine that I believe, remember, it's an opinion show, I believe is the biggest disaster in the history of medicine. I believe it's a killer. I believe it's killed millions of people. Just like ivermectin has saved millions, this vaccine has killed millions. And I wish me and Dr. Corey could get in front of President Trump to convince him, because he still thinks the vaccine works. The only thing I've ever disagreed with Trump on. We'll be right back. I don't like pharmaceuticals. I like vitamins, right? But there is one drug made by Big Pharma that is actually pretty good. at least for guys, right? It's Viagra. And that's the sponsor of this segment of the show.
You can act like a man!
Score Blue is actually the sponsor of this segment of the show. And if you're looking for the best ED pill of all time, listen up, because it's a new little blue pill from the makers of Viagra. And it's better than the original Viagra. Plus, the cost is insanely low, just $5 per pill rather than the original cost of Viagra, which to this day is $80 or $90 a pill. And it's available exclusively for our new sponsor, the #1 rated online ED service in the country, scoreblue.com. No one else has permission to sell it, only scoreblue.com. So what you see on TV and what you hear in radio ads and what you see online are ads for cheap, lower level, weak and ineffective generic Viagra. What you don't see is Score Blue's version, which is the only authorized generic Viagra, made by the same company that makes the real Viagra, made in the same factory with the same formula. It's the exact same everything, except it costs $5 per pill, not 80 or 90. So for the best Viagra in the world, at the lowest price in history, visit scoreblue.com, enter the promo code WAR, and you get 20% off your first order. WAR for Wayne Allen Root at scoreblue.com. See, don't ever say I didn't do something for you. Scoreblue.com. Even conservatives like to score. All right. Dr. Pierre Kory is with us to talk about the COVID vaccine, which is not a good thing. And I've been advising against it from the first day. But again, I'm not a doctor, so I just tell everybody I personally wouldn't take it because I don't know if you're going to turn blue or grow 4 noses and 3 ears, or your limbs are going to start falling off, or you're going to get cancer, or you're going to die of a heart attack. I said that from the first day in January of 2021. And I said, do not take it because you're a human crash test dummy if you take it. They have no idea what it's going to do to people. And I was right. So with that, let's go to Dr. Pierre Kory. He is the author of The War on Ivermectin. He's the president and chief medical officer of the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance. And you can find him at drpierrekory.com, a great hero who saved many, many, many thousands of lives in this country. Dr. Kory, let's talk about the vaccine. Are
Sure.
you with me?
Yeah, I'm just going to say
So-
what you just said. You were again right early, and unfortunately, how correct you were is truly astonishing. I mean, before the break, you had mentioned just how disastrous this vaccine campaign has been, and it's almost difficult to really talk about because it's a humanitarian catastrophe. Hundreds of
It's
millions
crimes
across
against
the world.
humanity, right?
They've
Crimes
died
against
as a
humanity.
direct. There's no question. And with the crime against humanity, let's be generous. I don't think we should be generous, but let's be generous and pretend that there was a good faith effort to develop an effective vaccine, and that it was an
Oh, I
unfortunate
think there
error.
was.
Well,
I
I don't,
think
but
there
I'm just going to
was.
say
In the
for
beginning.
the purpose of the
In the
exercise.
beginning.
Yeah, let's just give them that. Let's say that this was a good faith effort at the beginning, and that it was an accident that they chose the spike protein as the antigen to produce immunity, which was one of the most disastrous mistakes in history. They literally were injecting genetic code for the body to make a toxin. The spike protein is the most toxic and lethal protein I've ever seen. It dwarfs any other vaccine in history of as far as injecting proteins. And right now we have the data. I mean, the life insurance industry is screaming with unprecedented rises in claims of young working age Americans. The healthiest strata of society are dying at rates we've never seen before. And it's been ongoing now for 2 years. The entire government is ignoring this data. It's right out there in the life insurance data. We know VAERS is blown up. They've ignored that. So when you talk about the crime, again, I think there are many crimes here, but the biggest crime is this continued suppression. You cannot talk badly about these vaccines. They've somehow already been established as being safe and effective. When you look at this most recent approval, right, for this new vaccine, for the monovalent vaccine, for this supposed new variant, which it's so brazen. So number one, this latest thing that the CDC and FDA approved last week, first of all, it was never tested for effectiveness. All they did was test to see that
Never
antibodies.
tested on a human, right?
Yeah. No,
Never tested on a human.
They test on humans, but just for an antibody response, not for actual protection against illness. And the reason why there's such little testing, and it's targeted at a variant that's rapidly being extinguished, so they're always going to be day late and dollar short. And the idea that they're now their thresholds for testing and approving these things are so short and so minimal. And the reason why is because they consider the entire platform safe. These vaccines have been proven safe and effective, so every new one they come out with, they don't have to test for.
Sick. It's sick. And the amount of people I see dropping dead in the news every day at the age of 40 and 39 and 26 and 52, and they've never been sick a day in their lives, and they die suddenly, but no one makes the connection. They died suddenly, and ask a simple question. Were they vaccinated? I just want to know. Let's see the pattern. I'll bet you'd find out almost everyone in America who died suddenly was vaccinated, and then you'll know. And the people who are unvaccinated are all healthy like me at the age of 62, as healthy as I've ever been in my life. This is insanity. Dr. Kory, we got to run. We're at the end of the show. I want to thank you. You're fantastic. President, Chief Medical Officer of Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance. His website, drpierrekory.com. His book, The War on Ivermectin. Check it out. It could save your life. Thank you, Dr. Kory.
Thank you.